players here to look out for. Obviously, Virtuoso on Endpoint. I really liked what we've seen from Hibbs and Breezy in past games. Like Achieve says, it's a real shame that one of these teams has to go home. It's going to be a fun match.
And already taking the lead with Breezy, sets up Godsmilla. And Corelli, I know beforehand, well, hang on a second, Virtuoso, double tap into the net, and Endpoint, well, what a start.
Well, the devs talked about, how Endpoint were going to come out. They've had a rough go here today. It's been a long day for them. Almost every single one of their series have gone to Game 5 except for one. And that's a great way to get things going. You get Virtuoso on the double tap. That's the player you want kind of igniting this offense here for Endpoint. And it's a good start for them here in Game 1.
And almost another shot. Well, it was another shot for Virtuoso. Starting to really find his rhythm in the opening seconds. Metsonaris forced up to kick the ball out to the corner, and Endpoint want to push forward here. Metsonaris took the wing position and will help Virtuoso work the ball towards the box, but just too far off the ball for both Relating Wave and Metsonaris to get back to it. But they do keep the ball locked. Do they grab the ball in midfield? No, they have to play it back to their own corner. Actually, almost turned into a shot opportunity.
And from what we've seen from Singularity here in this regional and in the last is their discipline on the ball. It has been impressive at times where they've been able to work together as a team, but also know when to bring down that ball and go for the individual play. And that's really where I feel like Singularity has shined in most of their series. It'll be tough here against Endpoint. We always talk about Virtuoso in the demo game, and that does throw off a defense as well as the offense. So it is up to Singularity to make the difference and adjust to that here against Endpoint.
And I think for a lot of these teams, especially the newer ones that we see, Corelli, the mix-up game that you were talking about is something that a lot of these teams are capable of doing, but it's the consistency and knowing when to do it that it feels like they're still figuring that out. And it's tough to do when you're playing against so many different teams, and so many teams give you different looks. That was a hard shot. Nice little grab from Hibbs there. But overall, like if you can perfect multiple areas of your game as a team, and you'll find yourself slowly climbing up those ranks with the top, the best in the business right now.
Yeah, you really have to have a keen eye and knowing when a player is going to be playing the ball or playing you as a defender, because that really is the difference right now. When teams are marching down the field, sometimes they rather go for the player than the ball and remove them as a factor. So you have to really be smart in today's meta.
Well, Relating Wave will get that challenge against Breezy back over to midfield. There's been a couple of shots, but not consistent pressure from either side. I feel like Endpoint, they probably have slight advantage in terms of the ability to take the ball away from Singularity, who are now diving at the ball. It's a 1v1 the other way. Virtuoso squared up against one, and Hibbs will punch it in reverse, flip it around, and flip it right over another, but it's still Endpoint ball.
Singularity have done a great job of stopping that first man on the ball from Endpoint. You can see the space that opens up by doing so. Endpoint really have to close the gaps. Otherwise, Singularity are able to break out of their own half like they are now. There's another shot. It's their fifth one here in Game 1 from Singularity. Now, really the question is, can you generate more dangerous chances? And there's a dangerous one as Godsmill puts one off the crossbar.
And they stole the boost as well. Hibbs will grab that ball and does a good enough job to delay the approach. It just allows everyone else to get set up in midfield. And Godsmilla, he'll be the next up, but that's not the touch you want if you're Singularity. Relating Wave, Metsonaris looking at the wrong side there will grab that ball. And Singularity, they prevent a shot, but the demo opens up the net, and Metsonaris rolls it right in for Virtuoso, who will press it into the net.
And this is, the bread and butter for Endpoint. If you've watched any of their games, every single caster talks about it. Removing that last man on the goal line, Virtuoso is always going to rotate through the defense, find a player to either bump or demo, and then dish the ball out to the man on top of the box. It's exactly how Endpoint want to play, and they execute perfectly there in their second goal.
Oh, already up for that was Virtuoso. And how about a hat trick, Corelli, to start your match off where it's win or go home?
Yeah, it's always a bad look when both players in the midfield get beat by the first touch. And that was a great touch there by Metsonaris. Now his third assist. He's fed Virtuoso on every single one of their goals. And unfortunately, that last man in Singularity couldn't get the touch. And Endpoint really starting to gain control and run away with this one, but Breezy answers back with a minute left for Singularity.
Took a while to finally get started for Singularity. The boost steal, and then actually it was probably the chip on Virtuoso that more took him out of that play. Either way, good approach on the kickoff for Singularity, and even if it doesn't win you the game, feels good to be able to score. Getting shut out never feels good. But there are things to like about Singularity. They've had some good approaches overall, but I think they're just lacking that consistent presence in the blue half Corelli to really start putting Endpoint to task.
Yeah, they look good moving down the field. It's that last 10%. That's a great pinch, though. I like the idea. Follow-up is necessary, but Breezy couldn't get enough of it, and Metsunaris gets out.
Relating wave will just win the ball. And this was pretty powerful. 130 kilometers per hour. Nice little carry from Mets.
That's tough for Godsmill. He was crept up a bit far, I suppose. Endpoint could have just cleared that one out once his two attackers lost it. So for Singularity, I think that one might have been forced a little bit. You kind of have to when you're down by 2 and the clock's ticking down. But a good game 1 here, I'd say, for Endpoint, as they look very confident moving into game 2. I feel like they had most of the control here once they got their first goal.
I mean, this whole game started with that Virtuoso double tap. That will set the pace every time, and Virtuoso has been pretty instrumental in game 1. Even besides his hat trick, he got a couple of key demos to keep the ball on Singularity's half and to keep pressure up for Endpoint. The game for Singularity, I felt, ended about halfway through. That's when Endpoint really pulled this game away from them. But it's still some Rocket League to play. Singularity, there's some good things to like. We'll see if they can adjust.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think the biggest issue wasn't actually marching down the field and creating the chance. It was really just capitalizing and converting, rather, on the chances that they generated. I mean, they had 8 shots here in this game. That's plenty enough to score more than 1 goal. Endpoint gave them opportunities to put the ball away. Unfortunately, Singularity just couldn't generate a good enough opportunity to find the holes in the defense here and score a bit more.
Yeah, and like Hibbs had a couple of nice carries downfield. It just, like you said, converting on some of those chances that they had. But I do feel like if you get just more chances to convert, like you have to be able to pressure Endpoint. If they're able to just counter you and boom the ball downfield after 2 shots, you're never going to score on them enough. So they have to find a way to keep midfield locked down and win those challenges. Keep an eye on their rotation when we get into game 2. But for Hibbs, Breezy, and Godsmilla, nothing to sweat about just yet, although no one ever wants to go down 0-2 in a series, especially when it means making it to stage 2 or not.
And it does feel like Singularity did get caught out a little bit, especially on some of the counterattacks off the kickoff. You know, when 2 players went, the last man couldn't hit the ball from the corner. Felt like Endpoint kind of gave up some weaker goals than normal. See if they can kind of clean things up here and respect a little bit more. But I think Virtuoso got a piece of that last man, and he couldn't get up for the ball.
Now, this is the most frustrating thing about playing against Endpoint, is that you never really know when Virtuoso is coming up behind you from your own half. So you see him just take off to the corner. If they don't pass it to him, he's just going to go headhunting. It is so frustrating to... Like, when I'm thinking from the other team's perspective, that's really frustrating to have to play against. You have to have 360-degree vision at all times. There's not really a safe zone when it comes to Virtuoso.
Especially knowing that he's probably on your back shoulder a lot of times in kind of a blind spot. I mean, players aren't typically from the top of their box looking behind them a lot of times. So
yeah,
Virtuoso definitely finding blind spots in players and catching them by surprise there.
Everyone back for Singularity, but they just keep finding blue cars slamming into the ball right on the goal line. Finally, a little bit of space for Godsmilla. Will give him some space in the blue half, but can't avoid Metsunaris. Can it be a chance for Singularity to set up? No, just too much space between Endpoint players, Corelli. The second man sitting back in midfield, and they easily give up possession.
And you can start to see a trend forming here. It feels like Endpoint are picking up the pace while Singularity kind of falling behind. Ooh. And that's a perfect example. The Relating Wave just takes that ball away and rips a shot and keeps the pressure on. Another attempt here from Relating Wave to keep the play alive. And Breezy will slow it down. And Singularity might find a way out here, but Singularity really have to start respecting the speed, or at least start speeding up a bit here, because Endpoint, everything is working for him right now.
They were able to finally grab some boost canisters, because they were sitting on like 12, 0, below 25 at the very least for almost 20 to 30 seconds, and Endpoint just kept taking boost away from them. But after you grab that boost, they can position, take shots, and saved by Metanaris. But Godsmilla goes for a hard touch pass, and it's defended well, that time by Virtuoso. Still though, we're cross for Singularity. Can they find another shot opportunity? No, everyone a little bit slow to the ball, waiting for a challenge to kill it in midfield. But Endpoint, every single touch has been back to them, and Singularity just can't hang on to the ball. Again, Relating Wave, he's got Virtuoso, and Endpoint have 2 goals.
And it does feel like for Singularity that this play really can't happen. You got 2 players here in the corner, and Godsmilla, I guess Hibbs thought Godsmilla was going to get the touch there, and that's why he didn't go out for the challenge against Virtuoso there. But that play is kind of really a very mundane play from the corner and passed across, and unfortunately Godsmilla couldn't get the touch, and that throws off the last man.
Hibbs will turn right around and try to jet downfield. It got challenged, and Breezy has to come in and work his way to the corner. Hibbs is out of the play. Godsmilla has to wait for this next touch, and he can't get to it. So now Virtuoso will have lead with the ball off the back wall. Goal again, Relating Wave, this time scoring.
I really like what Virtuoso does here as he approaches the ball, slows down, gets that defender to jump, and the second that defender's in the air, the amount of options and the way that defender can play the ball goes down significantly, and Virtuoso knew he could just find the backboard there and lay it off to his teammate. Wonderfully done there. And Endpoint better for it here at 3-0.
It's just snowballed out of control for Singularity. A huge whip from Godsmilla will give a freebie to Metanaris. And Singularity, what is going on?
Another missed touch there. Godsmilla can't get to the ball. It comes straight down to Metanaris. I mean, what else more can you say? You got to make the play on the back wall. We've seen this the last couple days, players not being able to make the play on the back wall, and it's almost always at least a shooting opportunity for the opposition, and Metanaris will put another one home. 5-0 now for Endpoint.
This is a great touch from Relating Wave. Gets a high touch. Godsmilla, not even a chance. Relating Wave got back to that touch from beyond midfield. And wow. Well, game 2 is over. 2 minutes with 2 minutes left. And for Singularity, you just gotta reset. You gotta find a way to get by Endpoint and at least just hang on to the ball one step at a time, because this keeps happening. Relating Wave is hitting shots at max velocity every time his Octane's behind the car.
Look at the passing play. Metanaris lays it off to Virtuoso, finds Relating Wave downfield, across the field. Beautifully done by Endpoint. And I don't even know where Singularity went. That just is unacceptable. You can't have a team put together 2-3 passes like that uncontested. And Singularity are looking very rough here in game 2.
Singularity have been deconstructed. Endpoint have found every single hole, sliced through it, and then wedged an even bigger hole. And I expected a little bit closer from this team, but they just have been slower at every point to Endpoint. They're trying to read some of these touches in midfield. They're trying to give some respect in midfield off the first man, but like no one is ever ready for the challenge. No one's ever ready for the rebound off the challenge. And they're just slow to the touch every time.
And I will say the offense for Endpoint feels like it's peaking right now. All 3 players are pushing up the field, expecting passes, and the passes are just hitting the mark right now. Everyone getting involved, 1-2 through the field, through the midfield, even into the final third. So for Singularity, they're playing against an Endpoint that are feeling themselves right now.
On top of every ball, winning every challenge. And even there, just plenty of space. Everyone just waiting to see where, and why does that ball go cross clear for them? I mean, at this point, maybe Singularity are just hoping for game 3 and this next 30 seconds goes by quickly. And let's hope it goes by even faster is now what they're thinking after that one. That's kind of a microcosm of how the series has gone so far for them.
I mean, that was probably the best look that Singularity are going to get. Nobody was contesting that ball. It's over anyways. It really didn't matter if that went in or not. For Singularity, I think you take the break here, the intermission between this game and the next, and really think about what went wrong in this game. Because again, I mean, let's not count the last few goals. I feel like at this point, Singularity might be tilted, ready to go to the next game. But the first 4 goals or so, some of them were great plays by Endpoint. Don't want to take that away from him. But on the other hand, Jorby, it did felt like Singularity, once again, gave up some weak goals that really kind of piled on to the deficit that they already had. You know, maybe down by 1-2 goals is fine. But when goals 3 and 4 come off of kickoffs, off of missed touches off the back wall, that's where you start to go, well, you know, this could have been a lot closer game on just a couple different touches if we had got them.
Yeah, I mean, why is Relating Wave able to catch the ball on the ground from his own third and then just bang the ball towards the backboard and get a double touch? Like, why does he get that rebound several times? It wasn't just once or twice that happened. It was several times that the rebounds came off the backboard from initial touches that came from so far away. It's completely disconnected for Singularity. It feels like they're expecting one thing when they move down the field. They get something completely different, and they're not changing up how they're approaching the ball. Endpoint they absolutely dismantled them. I don't know. There's nothing else we can say about it.
Endpoint played well. I mean, I think that is fair to say. Endpoint, through 2 games here, have just been a way better team than Singularity, and I think that's fair to say.
I agree. And Singularity, we've seen bad games like this in plenty of matches where the team comes back and you don't see it that bad again. Singularity better hope so, because this is it.
Oh, not like this.
It could get any more demoralizing to start game 3. Relating Wave is ready to put Singularity in the ground.
And again, I think this is another goal where it feels like right off the kickoff, it has been a few times now in this series, right off the kickoff, Endpoint get one, and that's another one. It's like that kickoff shouldn't have happened, or at least it shouldn't have played out like that. It feels like we could have had a better chance at defending that had we played it properly. Now they're in the hole already, 1-0 in the first 10 seconds.
And already Breezy having to recorrect his path, but he got bumped off the play. Godsmilla has the first save. They might need another because the ball's hanging high in the air. Virtuoso just wins it clean, and it was a product of no boost for Singularity, or just very little of it. But they got some boost now. They grab the ball. Breezy, hard shot, and it's just high and wide.
Good attempt. He got the defense, or caught the defense out a little bit. Left a gap there on the far post, almost able to hit it, and that's, I think, what Singularity going to have to take advantage of. There are holes here in this defensive Endpoint, because they do kind of go all in on some of these plays. There's opportunity to expose them if they can just get a play put together, and this could be it. Hibbs blocked away by Relating Wave.
Ooh, Breezy didn't have a clean read on how that ball was going to bounce, and Virtuoso will score off the Relating Wave demo. Typically rolls are reversed here, but everyone can contribute to the mayhem.
And I mean, again, this is what we talk about with Endpoint. It is the bread and butter for them. They've done it plenty of times against plenty of teams in plenty of different weeks and tournaments. This is what they want to do. You have to be ready for it. You can't put yourself in a position where there's 2 Endpoint players chasing after 1 Singularity defender. They're going to try and demo you every time.
Hibbs next up. He's got Godsmilla downfield, but it is denied. Metsonaris was speedily up to that ball. And every angle for Singularity's defended. Even when Godsmilla wins that challenge, it's too hard of a touch, and it was right to Relating Wave. And then again, Metsonaris so speedy in midfield, keeping any kind of potential counterattack non-existent. Hibbs, he'll get a flip reset, but didn't, or maybe he didn't. He opted not to use it, I guess. But Virtuoso pops this one up, and Hibbs picks up 1 save. He might need to do it again. Relating Wave once, and save that time by Breezy. But the attack continues for Endpoint. Virtuoso pulls off the ball, and Metsonaris scores! Oh, man, when everything's going your way, you get away with stuff like this.
Yeah, and every player was kind of, from the Singularity side, was reading what each other were doing, and Godsmilla was trying to read that first man. I think it was Hibbs on the challenge, and when it didn't come, Godsmilla had to come from the top of the goal to make the save, and it was already a tough position for both players. And again, just weak defense from Singularity, and Endpoint are going to jump all over you every time.
They're in their heads, Corelli.
Yeah.
Where Virtuoso can just sit there, and you know where exactly he is, and you're just reacting. You're just reacting to the ball on your half because you've been reacting the whole time. You've been trying to force hard clear after hard clear. Every now and again, you have 100 boosts, but for the most part, you have 25 or less, even when you push downfield here. And by the time you do, Endpoint are already ready to go. They're already clearing the ball, and they're already demoing you and putting the ball in your net. It is absolute domination by Endpoint. It has to be the most demoralizing feeling for Singularity to get to this point and to have scored once this whole match.
Yeah. And they've had a couple good setups. That one is, what a fantastic shot from Relating Wave here for the first goal, regardless of how Singularity are performing. That's a tough shot to hit from Relating Wave, and it goes in all by itself.
He just plopped himself on the back wall and said, get back over there. Hibbs, the guy who had to try to grab that off the backboard, he launched about as quickly as he could, but he just spent too much time turning, which killed his speed to the ball. And had he got just a little touch on it, maybe Singularity, maybe, but that maybe it's about 20% chance, I think, and it got even smaller after that last goal. Where was this all day? Hibbs picks up a goal off a great passing play.
And that's the first time the team in orange has looked like a Singularity team. That's a great passing play, finding each other in open space and playing it back to the man, pushing down the midfield. That's the gameplay that I expected from Singularity coming into this series. It's the first time we've really seen it.
If you're an Endpoint fan, this has to be the best feeling in the world, though, Corelli, especially watching this team really struggle to, qualify for stage after stage, or just up and down in the grid, whatever it be. It doesn't matter. Metzenaris, that's a 5th goal. So what was it, 8 goals in total last time, or was it 7? I think it was 7. So I think 15 goals total for Endpoint, and 15-2, is that the score? I don't know. Either way, that
a lot
that tells
to
you
a little, Jorby. A lot to a little is my analysis. And I want to take a second. I do feel bad for Singularity. This is a qualification match. This is obviously, that means a lot to them. They made to stage 2 last time. These teams were about even in points coming into this as well. So for them to come out and get slapped by Endpoint, I think is not a performance that Singularity is proud of. Obviously, this is not how Singularity normally play, and unfortunately, it came out at the worst time for him here.
Yeah, and Hibbs, who has been developing himself into a star player on this team, has been absent all match long. He has this 1 goal for them. He has 3 saves, but other than that, just the offense as a whole hasn't been there. No one's been able to create anything as an individual. They've got beat in every single phase of the game. There's no other way to summarize it. Virtuoso has been scoring a feast worth of goals, and that is the official Brazil, if it holds. Yep. But for now, it's official.
And I believe the official score line is 18-1 at this point here, or 18-2 rather. Singularity did score their first goal in game 1, but yeah, rough day at the office here, I think, for Singularity. Endpoint really running up the score as well. There's another one for Singularity, but again, too little too late here. And unfortunately for Singularity, they will go down here against Endpoint, who, by the way, I mean, we've talked about, the performance by Singularity, but I gotta say, boy, oh boy, Endpoint really sending a message. Don't mess with them, man. If they're looking good, they're strong. They are strong right now, and everything they do is working so well. It feels like everyone is playing together. They're on the same page. They have a plan moving downfield. There's a lot of intention with their play as well, which is a very strong sign of a team that trusts each other. So for Endpoint, this is a fantastic scoreline and a fantastic series to go out and end your day with.
Yeah, I thought that Relating Wave in particular had quite a match. A lot of solid touches, hard balls to save. He had that nice, he had a couple attempted double taps. I believe he only converted on one of them. Endpoint, Relating Wave and company, they're moving on to stage 2. They absolutely obliterate Singularity in their 5th match of the day. You can't feel any more confident as a team heading into next weekend.
Yeah, I haven't seen a match in a series like that in a long time here in RLCS, where a team just absolutely dominates them in basically every single game and putting up so many goals. I don't know if there's some sort of record, but yeah, Endpoint absolutely came out and showed why they belong in stage 2. They took care of business here, and I am looking very much forward to seeing how they can carry this into the next stage.
Singularity, their run ends here, but Endpoint, they are moving on, and the top 16 in Europe continues to flesh itself out. We got one more match, left to go. It's maybe an unexpected face for our last match. The top blokes, They have lost 2. They have to play in round 5 against Triple Trouble. That is going to be one heck of a way to end our day in Europe. We'll have that and more after the break.